Are you one of those producers who's been grinding for a while but still feel like you're not where you want to be? Maybe you're stuck in the same loop, struggling with consistency, or just wondering what actually separates the pros from the amateurs. Well, after 10 years of producing, I've learned a lot the hard way, and the truth is, most producers waste years making the same mistakes, never realizing what actually moves the needle in their music career. But you don't have to be most producers. So in this video, I'm going to break down 10 of the biggest lessons I've learned in over a decade of producing music, plus a little bonus tip at the end, so that you can skip the trial and error and level up in under 20 minutes. And by the end of this video, you should know exactly what to focus on, what to ignore, and how to actually start seeing progress fast. So I'm going to split these tips up into two categories. The first being more mindset focused, ways you can stay disciplined, consistent, and actually develop skills faster. And the other being more technical production advice, things that you can add to your production right now and see improvement. So let's get into it. So making a career in music is pretty hard on its own, but without this one thing, you'll be your own worst enemy, potentially destroying your chances before you even start. So back in 2019, I was just getting into the swing of things musically. My production was coming together, more and more artists were using my beats, and I actually started to make some money with it, which was awesome. Honestly, it felt great knowing that all the work I was putting in was finally starting to pay off. But I was still working a regular job at the time, and my gut was kind of telling me something I didn't want to hear. I'd seen so many producers gain some success in the past and then just disappear. So many musicians try and it only ever being a hobby. So I just thought to myself that this was going to be great while it lasts, but I'm still going to be working my 9-to-5 job. My music won't ever be good enough to make this music thing a viable career path long term. This mindset grinded on me for a long time, until one day I woke up, I looked at my phone, and I'd made like $500 in my sleep. Basically, a bunch of artists had copped a few beats and a few of my kits had sold as well. But it gave me this light bulb moment. My gut feeling changed, and all of a sudden it became 100% possible. And that's the first tip. As soon as you genuinely believe in your gut that it's possible, you see a path that you believe you can pursue and actually see success, then it will make carving out your career in music still pretty hard, but now it becomes something you can actually achieve. Now I bet you're wondering, okay, great, but how do I actually get to that point? Well, it's pretty simple really. Decide what path you want to take in music. It could be any route from pursuing the industry side and getting placements, selling beats, being an engineer, a studio owner, literally anything. Just make sure it's a career path that you somewhat see yourself realistically being able to pursue, and one that gets you excited just by the thought of it, of course. And then just put a shit ton of time and work into getting really good at it. At some point down the line, things will start to click. It might take a year, it might take 5, but eventually you'll hit that breakthrough moment. You'll wake up one day and it will be 100% possible. And that leads me nicely onto this next tip that most people take the wrong way, which in itself slows producers' progress down tenfold. So let's rewind to 2017. I just wrapped up university, and afterwards I went straight into a full-time job that was completely unrelated to my degree. I was working 9-to-5 and earning an annual salary of £18,000 or $23,000, which if you're above the age of 25, you know that that is fuck all. But anyways, the reason why I got this job was just to make sure I could pay my rent, pay my bills, and put whatever was left into savings so that me and an old partner could go traveling. Now, it became apparent very quickly that with my current income, it was going to take years to save up enough to go traveling, which was kind of demoralizing. But at that same moment, I realized something. And that something is what all of you watching should adopt as early as possible. And that is that you need to be selfish for the greater good. Look, in the beginning, you have to put yourself first. I know that sounds cold and heartless, but just hear me out. You can't pour into others if your own cup is empty. You can't help your people if you're stuck at square one forever, trying to please everyone around you. Think of it like being on a plane when the oxygen masks drop. They always tell you to put your mask on before helping others. Why? Because if you pass out trying to help everyone, then no one gets saved. Same with this music game. If you're always bending for friends, saying yes to stuff that drains you, you'll never build the foundation you need. So in the early stages, be selfish with your time. Protect your creative energy and prioritize your growth. Now, that doesn't mean you don't care about people. It means you're making sure that you get to a point where you can actually do something for them. Trust me, the sacrifices you make now, they'll let you provide for your people later, but that only happens if you lock in now. So take pride in being selfish because it works. Now, being selfish is one thing, but this next tip will make you so valuable that no AI software or other producer competition will ever replace you, and will give you the foundations for a long career in music. So I want to introduce you to my guy Marlo. He's a self-taught producer who's been making beats for around 2 years, and I've been helping out with his production for the last few months. So the first time we jumped on a call, we spent a good hour or so just going through his current tracks. I like to do this with all of the producers I work with, as it gives me a good idea as to what we actually need to work on thse.com. But during this call, it became clear that a few things were missing from his beats. Things like adding more character to his melodies, spicing up his drums, and creating more of a sonically pleasing track through his mixing. So I told him this straight up on our call. We worked at it for a few months, and he was able to up his game in all of the above areas, and his beats went from sounding like this to sounding like this. Now, had he been lazy and just went for the fast and quick results route, then he could have just gone away from this advice and used AI to mix his beats, or just given up on melodies altogether and used loops for his production, which isn't the worst thing to do if you already have the skills I mentioned before. But without him developing these skills first, he would just be putting himself at a huge disadvantage further down the road. Basically, my point with this whole story is that you need to bet on you. Be irreplaceable. If you want a long-term career in music production, this is non-negotiable. You have to keep learning, keep evolving, and stay curious. The moment you stop growing, the game will move on without you. And someone else who's hungry, experimenting, and pushing boundaries will slot right into your place. Being good isn't enough anymore. There's a million good producers out there. You need to be the one they call because you bring something that no one else does. Your sound, your ear, the way you flip a sample or build a melody, make that your signature. And that only comes from constantly leveling up. Try weird plugins, study genres outside of your comfort zone, learn how to mix, learn arrangement, study sound design. Every little bit adds to your value. And the more value that you bring, the harder it is for anyone to replace you. Think of it like this. You're not just building a beat folder, you're building a vault full of skills, experience, and creativity. And when labels, artists, or clients come knocking, they're not just buying a beat, they're buying access to everything inside of that vault. So stay sharp, stay obsessed, stay a student of the game. That's how you stay booked, respected, and relevant. And not just today, but 10 years from now. Now, one way that you can streamline this and improve your skills 20 times faster in music production is by following this next tip. So back in 2020, whilst living in Cyprus, my production kind of stagnated. I was making melodic trap beats, they had a clean mix, the theory was on point, all the bells and whistles, but I just wasn't having fun anymore. I kind of felt boxed into one way of creating. And while it was a winning formula, it was just boring. So much so that I was just not interested in opening up FL Studio anymore. Up until this point, I was isolated on a small island with not much of a music scene. So not only had I hit a brick wall creatively, there was also no one around me to turn to for advice. Anyway, fast forward to 2021, I'd flown back to the UK, COVID restrictions were finally lifting, and I'd arranged to link up with my guy, J Cactus. This would have been like my second studio session ever. We cooked up for about 6 hours, and by the end of it, I had this huge wave of new inspiration. During the session, Jay would use production techniques that I'd never thought to use before. I would do the same for him. Ideas were just bouncing off of each other. We made a ton of beats, and before I knew it, I'd learned like a dozen new ways to cook up in just a few hours. More importantly, making music was just fun again. Now, if I'd stayed isolated and kept to my old habits, do you think I'd still be having fun making music? Probably not. So my next tip is to get out of your room. Listen, some of the fastest growth I've ever had didn't come from watching endless YouTube tutorials. It came from being in the room with other producers. Honestly, you'd be surprised how much you can learn just from watching someone else cook up a different workflow, a shortcut, a new way to layer sounds. Sometimes you'll see something so simple, but it unlocks everything for you. And that kind of game, you can't get it just from sitting in your bedroom all day. And it's not just about skills, it's about community. When you're around other creative people who are just as hungry as you, it pushes you, it humbles you, and it levels you up fast. You start soaking up energy, knowledge, inspiration, and before you know it, you're not just making better beats, you're actually becoming a better producer. So go to those studio sessions, hit those local producer meetups, invite that one producer from IG to pull up, swap ideas, share plugins, talk life, talk hustle. You're not just building skills, you're building relationships that could take your career further than you've ever imagined. Now, without this next tip, you can kiss your chances of building a stable, reliable, and long-term career in music production goodbye. It's something that we all neglect early on, but can cause irreversible damage. So back in 2023, I was under management with a producer friend called Ocean. Essentially, our manager had connections with established artists and would schedule out studio sessions for us to run from a professional studio space in London. And during this time, we got to experience firsthand the studio grind, basically where artists turn up hours late for sessions. We were there all day and night making beats, recording artists, mixing, etc. And it was the same story for every producer based at that block of studios. Now, for the younger guys that were based there, it was a problem because they stayed in the studio, ate quick takeout food as and when they could, threw back energy drinks for those 5 a.m. sessions. Some of them lasted a few months, some lasted a few years, but it was clear that this lifestyle had been locked into a studio, coupled with bad eating, sleeping, and drinking habits, just wasn't and isn't sustainable. Now, luckily for myself and Ocean, this lifestyle wasn't really our norm, so we already had good habits that carried over into this kind of studio life. Things like good sleep, gym, drinking water instead of energy drinks, eating right, etc., etc., which allowed us to stay focused throughout the whole year. But for the younger guys, they realized that their lifestyle just wasn't sustainable long term and made the adjustments, or they just had to take a step back. So my next tip is that your health is more important than anything. If you want to be in this game for the long run, you've got to take care of your body and your mind. Being a producer means long hours, late nights, bad posture, junk food, caffeine overload. It creeps up on you. But here's the thing. Your body is the machine behind your music. If it breaks down, so does your creativity. So stay active, stretch, walk, hit the gym, even lightly. Think of it like your favorite plugin or laptop. You keep it updated, clean, running smooth because you need it to perform, right? Well, the same thing applies to your body. You can't hit peak creative flow if your energy's trash, or your back's killing you, or your brain's foggy because you've been eating garbage every day. You're not just building beats, you're building a career. And that means you need endurance, focus, clarity, and health gives you all of that. So don't ignore it. Prioritize it. Now, if you're like the 20-year-old me or any other aspiring producer out there, you probably all suffer from this one problem early on. And I'll tell you what it is in just a second, because it's probably going to make this whole music production thing way more stressful and way more difficult than it actually needs to be. See, back in 2018, this whole music production, content creation route became a super realistic career path for me. I didn't need to be in the hotspots for music like London or LA. All I needed was my laptop, internet connection, and some solid production skills. So I went all in, lived in front of my laptop, and pretty much neglected everything else. I kind of decided I wanted to blow up and be the biggest producer online within like 6 months, which looking back is the stupidest thing ever, but this quickly led to a problem. Because I was pouring 100% of my efforts into this music thing only, just trying to make things happen as quickly as possible, the inevitable happened. I burned myself out, which leads me back to the problem I mentioned at the start. And that is that this music thing is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So the next tip is slow down. I know the grind feels urgent. You see people blowing up overnight, posting plaques, placements, crazy numbers, and it makes you feel like you're falling behind, but trust me, this ain't a sprint, it's a marathon. You're not just trying to blow up, you're trying to stay up, and that takes time. So don't rush the process. Don't kill yourself trying to be the fastest to the finish line, because most producers who sprint early either burn out, fall off, or just get stuck chasing short-term wins. Think of it like building a house. If you rush the foundation, the whole thing collapses later. But if you take your time, lay each brick right, focus on quality over speed, that house is going to stand for years, even through storms. Same thing with your music production. Stay consistent, stay focused, and stay on your path. It might take longer, but the results last way longer too. You can't make timeless music if you're constantly exhausted, anxious, or chasing every trend. So slow down and breathe. Now let's move on to some production tips that I've learned over the past decade that will definitely blow up your production skills super fast. So this first tip gave me so much clarity, and I can't lie, I was kind of kicking myself for not realizing this earlier. So back in my early days of producing, I was doing the most to my beats, adding 10 different elements to my melodies, stacking like 4 snares on top of each other. And while some beats turned out alright, it was slowly becoming a tedious process. I was seeing beat breakdowns of hit songs where they use like 5 sounds to make the entire beat, and it sounded incredible. And I'm over here layering 30 plus sounds in one beat and it's still sounding shit. But yeah, the answer was kind of staring me right in the face. And that is that the source material can make or break your music. If you start with crap sounds, you're building on a weak foundation. I don't care how crazy your FX chain is, how many plugins you throw on it. If the source sound is thin, cheap, or lifeless, the whole beat's gonna suffer. You can't polish a turd, basically. It's just not how it works. Using high quality sounds from the jump makes everything easier. Your mix hits harder, your melodies feel richer, and your drums actually knock without you having to tweak them for hours. Great producers aren't just good at arranging or making samples, they know how to choose the right sounds before they even start tweaking them. Think of it like cooking. If your ingredients are expired or low quality, it doesn't matter how good your chef is, the dish is going to be kind of mid. But if you start with fresh, flavorful ingredients, even a simple recipe can taste insane. Same thing with production. Choose sounds that inspire you value, use samples, drums, and synths that already have character. That's what separates amateur beats from the pro level stuff. Just starts at the source. Which brings me on to the next tip that will allow you to get out of your head and make beats that artists will actually want to use. So a few years ago, I had a studio session with an artist called thse. Super talented artist, crazy energy, but the vibe in that session was fast, no overthinking. So I didn't have time to layer a million sounds or just get too deep in the details. I had to move quickly and just make every decision in my process count. So I just stripped it back. I made a real simple beat, a nice melodic loop, solid simple drums, an 808 pattern that just hit where it needed to. That's it, just the essentials. And honestly, it turned out to be one of my favorite tracks that I've ever made with him. And that's when it really hit me. Less is more. A lot of producers overcook their beats, trying to impress other producers, which don't really get. Layer on layer, effect on effect, and suddenly the idea gets lost. But when every sound has a purpose, that's when your tracks hit different. Every element stands out, the artist has room to work, and the vibe is clear. Think of it like graphic design. The best logos are simple. One shape, one idea, maximum impact. And your beats should be the same. Don't cloud your creativity with noise. Focus on what matters, cut the fat, and just let the important sound shine. Sometimes leveling up doesn't mean adding more, it means knowing when to leave things out. Now, I don't care if this next tip triggers some producers, because it's helped speed my workflow up, it's made my beats sound a lot better, and I know it's going to benefit aspiring producers watching this. So when I first started making beats, I used to geek out over mixing. I wanted everything to smack, but here's how I used to do it. I'd build the whole beat first, no leveling, no effects, no nothing, just raw sounds stacked up. Then once the beat was fully arranged, I'd open up the mixer and just go crazy with effects, EQs, compressors, you name it. But the problem was I wasn't actually mixing. I was just adding stuff for the sake of it. Over processing, trying to fix problems that could have been avoided from the start. I thought mixing came after the beat was done. But no, mixing starts as soon as you drop in your first sound. So these days I'm leveling as I go. If a sound needs reverb, I throw it on right then. I'm shaping the sound as I build it. What this does is two things. One, it keeps the vibe right while I'm creating. The beat already feels good in the moment, which keeps me inspired. And number two, when I get to the end, I barely have to do anything. A few tweaks, bounce it, done. It saves time, and the beat actually sounds how I envisioned it from the beginning. Simple leveling, intentional effects, and just trusting my ears early on. And yeah, it changed everything. Now this next tip will help you avoid a crucial mistake that I avoided by sheer luck and good timing. And it's also going to ruffle some feathers, no doubt, but fuck it. So I almost got caught lacking once, and it taught me a valuable lesson. I was in a studio session with an artist that I work with, and he only uses Logic to record vocals. Meanwhile, I live in FL Studio. My whole workflow is built there, but I had to jump into Logic and record some vocals and just help shape the session. And if this had happened a few weeks earlier, I would have been fumbling heavy. But luckily, a couple weeks before that, I filmed this DAW swap challenge video where I had to cook up in Logic and the other producer had to use FL. I just learned the basics, how to lay down drums, just navigate the UI, record MIDI, and move audio around. Just enough to not get lost. And that little bit of knowledge saved me in that studio session a few weeks later. Because I was able to hold my own, and more importantly, I didn't kill the vibe. That single moment right there was like a light bulb switched on in my head. Your go-to DAW is your weapon, but don't be clueless in the others. Now let's kill this debate real quick. FL, Ableton, Logic, Pro Tools, they all get the job done. Stop listening to people argue about what's best. If you're fluent in FL Studio and it allows you to get your ideas out fast and clean, then why feel pressured to make the switch when other people start saying real producers only use XYZ? Your DAW is the best DAW if you actually know how to use it. End of story. But here's the disclaimer. It's a smart idea to at least learn the basics in other DAWs. You don't need to be a wizard, but know how to get around, record, and make simple edits. Because you never know when you'll be in a session that's not on your turf. And in this game, flexibility matters. So master your go-to DAW, make it second nature, but keep your tool set wide enough so that you can walk into any room and still be able to contribute. That's what separates the hobbyists from the pros. Now, if you don't do this next tip, then all you're doing is slowing yourself down and you're going to end up in an endless cycle of making music that you don't even really like. So when I first downloaded FL Studio at 15, I was locked in. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was having the time of my life making beats. Every time I'd finish one, I'd sprint downstairs and play it for my mum. She'd say, "Wow, son, that's amazing." So I'd run back upstairs, cook up another one. Then I'd go to my sister and be like, "Yo, listen to this one." And she'd go, "Yeah, that sounds half decent." And it really didn't, trust me. And this was the cycle. I kept doing it, beat after beat, running around for opinions. But my progress, slow, real slow to non-existent actually. Because the truth is, as much as your family loves you, they probably don't know what they're listening for. They can't tell you if your 808's out of key or your snare's way too loud. They just want to support you, and that's cool, but it's not feedback. The real shift came when I found the producer community online, forums, YouTube comments, Discords. Then I joined feedback group chats with like-minded producers. I invested in mentorship from people ahead of me. They gave me actual specific feedback, and that's when I really started growing fast. So here's the gem. Stop listening to everyone and instead listen to the right people and yourself. Build a feedback loop with producers whose opinion you actually trust. Hire a mentor if you can, just to guide you and give you that objective next level insight. And above all, listen to yourself. If you don't like the music you're making, even if it's technically good, then why would anyone else connect with it? Your taste is your compass. The more you trust it, the more your sound starts to feel like you. Feedback is powerful, but only when it comes from the right source. That one shift, trust in yourself and only opening your ears to the people who really know the game, that's when your growth explodes. Now, I'll be honest, putting all of the above into practice will take time and it can be quite difficult, but one thing that will help you in implementing all of these is by having the ability to learn at lightning speed. And luckily, I have the exact video that will help you learn music production so fast it feels like you're cheating the system. So head over to this video right here next and I'll break down all of that for you over there. And if you want me to expose and fix everything that's been slowing you down, then reach out using the link below in the description. I've already worked with and helped a bunch of producers level up their game, and I'm pretty sure I can do the same for you too. Peace.